Hey folks, welcome back to Real Estate Investing Unmasked. So many times when I talk to people, I'm out on vacation or I'm meeting up with a group of people, it always comes out, what do you do for a living? What do you do? And I usually mention that I'm a real estate investor in one form or fashion because I've done a whole lot in real estate investing. And it's something that's near and dear to me. And no different than the normal people usually have some kind of question, some kind of property that they are interested in looking at, and they want to know some advice. And I have never shied away from giving advice to people as long as they understand I'm giving advice as a friend, not as a financial advisor. And so here I do the same thing. And I want to tell you, there's this guy that came up to me today. And today I'm in Ventura, California. So I'm really close to the coast. It's a beautiful place. I just left Sedona, Arizona just yesterday. Went and saw the Grand Canyon on Monday. It was great. I was in Houston a couple weeks ago. Lubbock a couple weeks ago. Anyway, I've been traveling around. I've been having a whole lot of fun. And so today I was in Ventura, California. I was talking to this guy, and he says there's this house that I want to buy close to this lake. And I won't tell you which lake it's at, because I'm going to give him at least some privacy for that. So he says, I want to buy this house next to this lake. Do you think it's a good idea? Now, anytime somebody has wanted to buy a property or do some kind of investment, it's not good enough that they say, is this a good property? Is this a good idea to buy this? I almost always have questions I have to ask to determine whether it's a good deal or not. So one of the questions I asked him was, what do you want to accomplish with this property? Do you want to rent it on a month-to-month basis, or do you want to rent it as a vacation rental? See, this property is close to a lake, which kind of lends it to being a property that is more of a vacation setting. And so he told me, he says, well, I'm not sure exactly what to do with it, but I'm really interested in this property. I think it's a good property. Turns out it's a mobile home, where the skirt has been upgraded. It has a bunch of rock that has been installed. And personally, as an investor, it doesn't matter to me that it's a mobile home. That has never bothered me. There are people that have made millions off of mobile homes, just as there are people that made millions off of apartment buildings. So I'm not going to turn it down from that. They put a regular roof on top of this mobile home. They got permits and all these things to make it into, basically, it's turned into a house with a mobile home structure. And he told me that it comes with 2 lots. You have a lot to the side that's large enough to take an RV and run it around in a circle and park it, or you could put some tents on the property, which is fabulous. He said that the lake was only about 10 minutes away from the house, and the city was only about 15 minutes away from the house. So it's kind of in a really good spot for just sitting and calm, having a calm vacation. So my questions included, is this a place where people go and spend vacations? Is it a place where it's a destination and not just a side lake? Because honestly, there are places where you have plenty of lakes that people don't go camping at. They don't care to stay in a cabin. But there are plenty of lakes where they do. And this happens to be one where people do. They go for fishing, they go for camping, and they go year round. And so a couple things that I told him was, when I asked him, I said, do you want to have this be a month-to-month rental? And he said, no, I don't think so. And I said, are you open to doing something more short-term rental, like an Airbnb? And he said, yeah, I think so. And I explained to him that all the people I have talked with, when they've got the Airbnb going and it's got a good record and they're super host and everything, usually they can make 2, sometimes even 3 times what the monthly rent would be on a monthly rental. This property is about $130,000, $120,000. This person makes somewhere around $100,000 a year. So they're very much able and capable of buying this property and getting it ready for an Airbnb. I said, now do you want to spend vacation there? Because if you do, you don't want to rent it month to month. If you want to do short-term rentals like an Airbnb, then that's perfect. You can Airbnb it out when you don't want to be there, and you can block it off when you do want to be there. So that works out perfectly. The other thing I asked him was, how long do you plan on holding this property? If you plan on holding a property for a very long time, it almost doesn't matter as much. I asked him also what were the other expenses involved with the property. Well, it happens to be on a local roadway that costs $100 a year to maintain for his portion of maintaining that property. I asked him how much were his property taxes. Does he have a slip at the lake? These are things that you want to think about. And he was excited. It was great to see him. He was filled with excitement as he was learning and thinking, wow, I got to look into these things. The other thing I asked is, how many other Airbnb rentals or vacation rental by owner, VRBOs, are already established in the area? And so he said he's got to look that up. There was a property, for instance, I have another friend of mine who teaches people how to make money as a marketer for another business structure, not through real estate, but through another medium. And he was asking me about his property and asking me about Airbnb, because I feel very positive about Airbnb. There's some things you have to do to make it really good, but I feel very positive about Airbnb. And so he was asking me questions about how do I get my Airbnb set up? And one of the things that I told him, and the same thing as this guy is talking to today, I said, look up the Airbnbs in the area. Also, look up the hotels in the area. Now, the good fellow I was talking with today, he said that the hotels in the area, that the hotels are about 15 minutes further out than this house that he'd be considering buying. That is great, because if the hotels are filling up during the summer or during the winter, whatever it is, if they're filling up, you look at how much the rate would be to stay in the hotel versus the rate to stay, basically you look to see how much the rate would be for the hotel, and whatever that is, that's kind of the baseline. Houses are so much better than hotels. I'm in one right now. That's where I am. So for tonight, I'm spending $200 a night to stay in this hotel. So if I found an Airbnb that was $150 a night, and I'd get a house, a kitchen, a nice bed, maybe even a breakfast involved, I'm more inclined to stay in an Airbnb than I am to stay in a hotel. Now, this chain that I'm in the hotels, I get points, and I'm a members reward person, so I get points for staying here, and that's why I'm staying in a hotel tonight. But when I was in Sedona, I stayed in Airbnb. When I stayed in Lubbock, I stayed in Airbnb, right? So you kind of have to gauge those. So I told him, if you're going to buy a house near this lake, and you can see how much the hotels do their rentals for, you can kind of gauge how much it's going to cost, or how much money you're going to bring in. Now, on vacation rentals, obviously it's a hit and miss with the seasons. You could have hit very big, where it's year round. It doesn't matter whether it's snow on the ground or whether the sun is shining and the snow is far from there. Some places always have people, like Reno, Nevada, for instance, Lake Tahoe. You got the lake during the summer, or you got Ski Heavenly during the fall, during the winter time. So this lake in particular, I don't know if it's a winter destination, but it is a summer destination based on what he told me. So a situation like that, you might consider doing that. I talked to a guy once who lived in Newport Beach, California, and he owned a property in Big Bear. And his property in Big Bear, California was like 100 yards away from the ski lift. And he said, I bought this place for $150,000 and it brings in $50,000 a year through Airbnb. It's always rented. So that's the kind of situation that I kind of wanted him to set up if he wants to buy this place. The reason why I mentioned the guy from Newport Beach is because the way he set his up, if you know anything about the geography of California, Newport Beach is not anywhere near Big Bear. It's a couple hours away. I mean, near, but it's a couple hours away. Which means when you have somebody check out of the Airbnb, you got to clean the place up. So I asked him, I said, how can you live in Newport Beach and have a place in Big Bear that you're doing an Airbnb with? And he said, it's actually very easy. I have 2 maids. I have them alternate week after week. So this week is this maid, the next week is this maid, the next week is that maid, and I just tell them whenever the checkout dates are for these guests that are going to be staying. And he charges just enough that the fee covers the maid plus $5. So he actually gets to pocket another $5 for himself. The maids get paid. If a maid calls in sick, he's got another maid he can show up because he gives them both business on a regular basis. So I told this fella today, if you're planning on doing this as an Airbnb, consider having a maid service come in and take care of your cleaning services. So this guy was super excited, but I wanted to share you kind of my mindset going into it as an investor of determining whether this is a good deal or if it's just a deal. So after he finds out how much it's going to bring in per night as a rental, let's say it brings in $100 a night on the weekends. If it brings $100 a night on the weekends, you got 4 weekends and you have at least 2 nights every weekend, then you're talking $800 a month. Well, if he's buying the place for $130,000, well, that might be good enough for him to say, this will pay for the mortgage, so basically it's a free vacation home for me. Not only that, if you can have people that can stay during the week and maybe get $60 a night, maybe $60 a night for a whole week, that's $420 in a week, then still you're most likely going to be able to make your mortgage payment. And some places like Catalina Island, where you can rent out a place for $100 per room per night, and they have a vacancy rate of 0 during the summertime. You make all your money in the summertime, and then you just make a little bit during the wintertime. So you have feast and famine. So you have to know that if you're going to buy a property and you're saying, hey, this is a nice one, it's a vacation home, but I think it could make some money too, consider all the different avenues, and I think you'll do really well. So I wanted to share that exciting thing with you. I thought it was a whole lot of fun talking to him about the property. And if you are considering buying a property and you have some questions you want to ask, go ahead and visit me at watchbob on youtube.com or comment down below. And I'll answer you just like I have other people. I'll talk to you as if I'm just the guy sitting right there next to you at the bar answering your questions. Not as a financial advisor, but just somebody who's just has an ear that's willing to hear and has experience to back it up. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again. Thanks. Till next time.